Hey everybody, welcome once again, to the podcast. I'm gonna try my best, my absolute best, to put this episode on iTunes. All right, I figured uh, some way. I had looked into the way of putting this show on the podcasting like what is it called? The app on iTunes and all that stuff. So that way we can enjoy this on the road. If you do enjoy this, I kind of don't think anyone really is digging it too much right now, but it is cool. I'm just getting started. And that doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it just because I feel like no one's really watching this or whatever, because it doesn't really matter. But, man, I was just, right before I started this, sat down, I was thinking about a time when I was young, okay? So I'm about to tell you all a little story. So when I was young, I wasn't really the bravest of kids. Like I would cry a lot or or whatever. But I remember one of the things that me and my friends back in the day when we were like really super young, probably like I don't know, I would say like 10, maybe 12, 10 to 12. It was before our teenage years for sure. But we had neighborhood kids, and back then we weren't like the kids are now. Like we don't chat with each other via text message, or we don't we didn't do stuff like that. Like if I wanted to hang out with my friends, I would have to go to their house, knock on their door, and ask if they were home, and ask if they could come out and play, which I don't think that really happens anymore. Right, they're kind of just texting each other, or yeah, they just, oh my goodness, this thing just shot up like crazy, like a SpaceX rocket. This thing just shot up. Okay. So, yeah, when we were young, I had to see if it was okay if my friends could go out and play, and what we would do is we would ride bikes. I've had my bike stolen before. This isn't like what happens with kids anymore. I feel. I'm pretty sure they have bikes. I'm pretty sure they have scooters or whatnot, but they're not as engaged with them as they used to be. Like I used to, me and my friends, we used to like ride skateboards, and we used to hop over the fence of the school after school was over. Like you would think that we would be like, oh, we hate school or whatever, and um, the last thing I want to do is be at school. But after school was over, goodness gracious, what's going on here? But after school was over, hold on, let me fix this real quick. But after school was over, when all the teachers would go home, um, we used to hop over the fence, sneak in, and ride our scooters or bikes or skateboards or whatever it was that we were into riding at the time, and you know, we wouldn't do anything wrong. Like it's not even we were doing vandalism. It obviously wasn't allowed. Like there were signs everywhere that said no skateboards, no bikes, no scooter, none of that stuff. Right? No skates. It wasn't allowed, but we still did it. We still jumped over the fence, and we got our knees scraped, and we would play in the jungle gym, and we would hang out and be fun kids. We could easily go to the park, but there was just something. Well, first of all, the local park where I lived, it was quite a distance. Unless you were on a bicycle, you could make that distance easily in a bicycle. But I don't know. The school was like closer to all of us, so it was easy to just hop over and just do what kids do. Well, what kids used to do. I mean, um, and yeah, I remember once when I was little. Like again, I was scared of a lot of things when I was young. I was afraid of, I don't know, getting caught and going to jail over stupid little things, over just hopping the fence and go. I mean, that is technically trespassing or whatever. So one day, me and my brother and a few of our friends, or a few of my friends and my brother and a few of his friends, we weren't like really hanging out together, but we were doing the same things, right? Obviously, my older brother didn't really want to hang out with the little brother, but he wanted to go do his own thing. Whatever it was that he was doing, I don't know. I never asked. But we were doing essentially the same thing, is sneaking over the fence of the school just to hang out or do whatever. We were just skateboarding. I have no idea what they were doing. Again, I wasn't questioning it. But whatever. We were both inside the school, and then the campus security decided to chase us, right? So he chased us, somehow we all came together, and he was chasing just a big old group of people. People scattered, and it ended up just being me, my brother, and a couple of my friends, right? Who got caught over the fence. The campus security cornered us or something, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are in trouble now," the whole finger wagging or whatever. And I started crying because I was like, "What am I gonna do? Like, my parents are gonna be so mad. I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get blamed for graffiti that was, happening because that was happening at the time. I'm not saying it was my brother. I'm not saying it was his friends, and it wasn't my friends. It could have been someone else. It doesn't matter, right? That's not part of the what. But I thought I was gonna get blamed for it, and I thought I was gonna go to jail at the time when I was little. I thought the whole juvenile hall thing. I thought as soon as you get placed in there, you are done. Like you're just the scum of society, and you won't ever get a job, and you're just a really bad person forever, and people are gonna think you're a badass, but not in a good way, And I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for that. Um, so I started crying because I was afraid that I was gonna get thrown in prison for the rest of my life, and I had a teacher who would tell me, or who he would tell the class and threaten them like, "You don't want to go to juvenile hall. You just don't want to do that. You know what they do for you to entertain yourself? They give you a pen, a broken pen. You have to put it back together, and that's your entertainment." And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds horrible. That sounds terrible. Like that's not fun, right?" So I didn't want to do that. And what's funny is like I would go to my room and I would have a pen and I'd break it on or like take it apart on purpose. And then I would be like, "Oh, see, I could probably do this," but like I would do it like for an hour and I'd be like, "No, I can't do that forever." Cuz I would think that juvenile hall it's like you're going to be there forever, which I don't unless you stab another child or something. I don't think that can happen. Like if you're stealing something, they're going to throw you in there, scare you. It might get real for you, and if you're like a super delinquent, I mean, that was like our first offense, so I don't know why I was crying. And another thing, I don't know if anyone ever like wishes that they could go back in time with the knowledge that they have now and handle those very same situations. Like for example, if I would have been in that situation then with the knowledge that I have now, campus security could have stopped us, right? Cornered us outside of the school and said, "Oh, you guys are in trouble now," and I would have been like, "Well, I'm going home," and that's it. I could have just walked off because it's a campus security. What is he supposed to do? He has no authority. Oh, I'm gonna call the cops. Call them. Go ahead. I'm gonna be gone by the time you call them. Because keep in mind, they didn't have cell phones back in the day, so he had to go find a payphone or go inside the school, call the police, and that was just gonna take too long. I was gonna be home already, so he's like, "Let me take down your names," right? Again, if I had the knowledge that I have now, it'd be like you give him either a fake name or I just tell him to go screw off. Like, well, why would you? You can't ask me for my name. I don't know who you are. You could be some sort of pedophile, right? I could have said that, but I didn't. I started crying in front of everybody, and then there was a crowd of people. I don't know how this happened, but there was a crowd of people all of a sudden just watching me cry and making fun of me, just because I was afraid. And my brother was like, "Dude, stop crying. You're not in trouble. You're fine." And then, but we were all young, right? So I remember we got a like letter in the mail, and it had like the school, like the official school seal. And me and my brother both got freaked out. He probably won't admit that he got freaked out, but we got freaked out because we're like, "Oh, we're gonna get fined." We had thought we were gonna get fined because again, there was like really bad people going in there and doing their graffiti and stuff like that. Like when I would jump over the fence to the school, I would go to play basketball, right? I would go to ride my skateboard. And yeah, I understand that's not allowed. Chances are if I break my leg in either of those situations, I'm pretty sure the school could have been held liable or something. So I understand. I get it why it wasn't allowed. But it's so much of a big deal that I was going to get fined. I don't think so. I really don't think so. And it's just crazy the way things were with kids then. We were kids and we would do stuff like that all the time. I remember once there was like an abandoned house like around the corner from my house, and these other kids dug up like ramps in the front yard of this abandoned house. Like no one had bought it, so they were like, "Hey, screw it. There's dirt. Let's just build some ramps, or let's dig up some ramps." And we went and we rode the ramps with them, and it was just like it wasn't a neighborhood. These people that were just like, oh, we did these jumps, and we're like, oh, that's really cool, and we thought people were gonna be. We thought they were gonna be cool and just be like, oh, the more the merrier. But they were like, my brother was the first one who rode the ramps in front of them, and they were like, what are you doing? And my brother was like, well, I'm just going on these jumps, like just so very innocent, you know. It wasn't even like a like it was kind of like, dude, it's obvious what I'm doing. It's like, you know, we were young and these kids were older, and eventually, you know, it was cool. But those are the type of things that we used to do. We used to go down by where the park was at. There was this like river bottom by where I live. This is the Santa Ana River, and there used to be this like motocross like track. For some reason in Riverside there was this motocross track. It was called Twin Palms or whatever. And we used to break in and get in there, and we used to ride the or try to ride the track with our bikes. But those are the type of things that we would do, is go on jumps. And I remember what, oh my gosh, I remember once I was with my friend Jose, and he was like new, like super new, right? He wasn't just new to the school. This kid was like new to the country, right? Like he came from over there. That's the only way that I can say it. He was a wonderful guy. He was cool, fun. He was my next door neighbor for the longest, and we would have fun, and we built clubhouses, and we got into fights with each other. He was a great guy. Wherever he is, I'm gonna have to look him up, because that guy, like, I grew up with that kid. He was my next door neighbor. He's one of my best friends back in the day, and like I said, we got along. We fought a lot. It was really funny, right? So I remember once we went to that place, Twin Palms, and before you got to the actual racetrack, or the dirt bike track, there was just these random hills that people turned into jumps, and they were very sketchy jumps. And these like older teenagers were like doing the most gnarly ones, and we were like, oh, you don't have the balls to do one of those, and we did and whatnot. And it was totally unsafe. There was no one wearing helmets. There was no one wearing pads or anything. Everyone was just like, it was like a free for all at this point. Like everyone had already known about it, so there was like crowds of people now, not crowds, but there was like a good amount of kids that were going. To whoever discovered it, that sucks, because obviously like that wasn't the intention to like bring. It wasn't like an amusement park, but it ended up being. If you had a bike, eventually someone would tell you, oh, you should go check out Twin Palms, or even the jumps by Twin Palms. So we were in the jumps by Twin Palms, right? And you know those BMX bikes that are like meant for jumping, and they're light, and they're, built sturdy enough to withstand these jumps. We were not using those bikes. We were using these like Walmart mountain style bikes that for some reason at the end of the handlebars there would be horns, so you could grab onto it, like for whatever reason, I have no idea, but the handlebar was like straight. It wasn't one of those like motorcycle looking, like sturdy looking handlebars. It was just a bar with horns at the end, and it had like, like those brakes where you would, clamp down on it. And the other guys, they had, the brakes where you can, step back and it would start braking. And they had like lighter bikes, and we had these heavy ass bikes. And for some reason, we thought that was acceptable for like jumping and catching air or whatever. So we would do stuff like that. And I remember once, it was one of the scariest moments in my life as a child. I was probably like, again, me and my friend Jose were probably like 8, 9, maybe 10, 12 or so. I don't know. I don't remember how old I was. 11? It doesn't matter. Let's just say I was like 10. Yeah, and let's just say I was 11 or 12, all right? Getting closer to the teenage years, right? We still weren't really noticing girls. We were like still trying to have fun and do stupid things, right? So we go to these jumps, and I'm going over them like real good. And I'm choosing like the smaller jumps, because I'm like, I can handle these like for sure. And no one, all the bigger kids or all the teenagers, they're not really jumping on these because they want to risk their lives on these huge ones, which I'm not even sure if they're huge anymore. It's gone. I can't go back, and the only thing that's left of it is my memories of it. But I remember once my friend Jose had went down to like on his mountain bike, and he was going up one of the like kind of bigger jumps, because he was like, I'm gonna try it. I have the balls. So he goes up it, right? And then on the other side, because these jumps were just like kind of hills, right? They were kind of like that. So you can jump up it like this and land on the other side, or vice versa. For some reason, one of these kids thought it would be a good idea to go the opposite side that everyone else was going, and they both kind of met each other in midair. Boom. When my friend was the other kid, he like fell, and it was like he was okay, right? Like nothing really happened to him. My friend Jose, on the other hand, fell on his bike fell over, and then he fell on top of his bike. And again, I don't want to gross you guys out, but those stupid brakes, I think there's a reason why they're not there when you're doing all this BMX stuff, right? And it's simply because of this. When he landed on his bike, that the brake handle went through his cheek, or went in his mouth and cut his mouth open somehow. He needed stitches after this. But this kid he started crying. I was so scared, and I was like, what are we gonna do? Like this, he's done. He's gonna bleed to death. I would always think the worst case scenarios. I'd be like what are we gonna do? Like, so we had another friend. His name is Hector, and he lived really close to the park. So that means he lived close to Twin Palms, right? So we go, and I'm carrying him, and I'm trying to push both bikes because he can't even concentrate because he's bleeding everywhere, right? It was scary for a kid to witness at that point. Like at that point, like I had never seen that much blood, like ever, except maybe in TV. And like I think we may have watched Rambo when I was young, and when I wasn't really supposed to. But it was crazy. Like, so we ended up we were like, I don't know, we were trying to figure out how to make it to our parents' house back home, because we lived next door to each other, and like we were like, oh, we're gonna get in so much trouble, right? I thought his mom was gonna kill us, and it was just, but it was scary. I was afraid that like something was gonna happen. I was afraid that he was gonna get infected or something, and he was gonna die. Um, so we ended up getting it to my friend Hector's house, and then my friend Hector got him some ice, and like his mom came home, and she freaked out. She's like, "Oh my God, what were you guys doing? What were you thinking?" And I was like, "I think it's time for me to bounce." So I left, and I went home, and the next day I get a phone call from Jose. Well, not from Jose, but like I forgot who called me, but he's like, "Hey man, you should go check out on Jose." So the next day I went over, and I was like, "Dude, how are you doing?" It was like I visited my friend in the hospital for the first time, and he just had stitches and he couldn't talk. And I was like, "Whoa, that was a gnarly experience." It really was. But those are the type of things that kids used to do. Nowadays, they, it's like their phones have to be involved. Could you imagine if we had our phones back then? I would have had footage of this stuff, right? I do love technology, and don't get me wrong, I love having a phone or whatever, but it's like, man, kids, we gotta limit when kids have technology. I'm not saying I want more kids to bust their cheeks open or bust their lips open with bikes, but it's like stuff like that doesn't happen anymore. We're not digging up ramps, and we're not, launching ourselves in mid. Or another bike related story is, I remember um when I was young, again, I had the same group of friends, and then I also had friends that were like, they were cool with us, but we didn't always hang out, right? So I was hanging out with like my friend Jose again, my friend Eric, and then some white kid that he was really cool, and for some reason he just started hanging out with us. Like, I've known him for a really long time, and his name is Evan, right? We made him eat dog food once, which was really, really wrong. We dared him to eat. I think we all had $1, and we're like, hey, we'll each give you $1 if you eat dog food. And then he's like, can I have hot sauce? So stupid. Can I have hot sauce? And he's like, you eating it? And he's like, oh, it's not bad with hot sauce. It's like, it's gross, man. It's disgusting. Most of us have at least tried dog food. It's nasty. I don't know how dogs could eat that stuff. But anyways, freaking Evan. Here's the thing. Like, Hispanics, we had to like make our own jumps. I've done it plenty of times at home with like either things of wood, like, or that we've had laying around, or bricks and dirt or something like that. Like we had to make our own jumps. Um, Not Evan. He was a white guy. He was a white kid. So therefore, like his parents would be like, "Hey, you're white and extreme, right? You love dirt bikes." So his parents had gave him like they all had dirt bikes and they all went riding, and they all knew what Glamis was. I didn't even know what Glamis was until I was like 21, right? So his parents would buy him like BMX bikes, and his parents got they weren't like rich, because I know this because they lived in the same neighborhood as we did. But anyways, he would and I remember like they had got him like some ramps, like plastic ramps that you can, and they had X Games on it. Like that's what they were meant for, and it was two of them, and you just spread them up. They weren't attached to each other, so you would, create a gap, or it was totally unsafe. So I was killing it. Like I'm telling you guys, I was destroying it. I was like, I was just landing everything, and I was like, all right, put a bike in between. And then I jumped the bike, and I'd be like, woo, yeah. And I was killing it, like I said, and I was getting super, super cocky. I was like, hey, Evan, lay down in the middle, man. Just trust me, I got this. Jumped over him, landed it. I was like, hey, Jose, Eric, just line up like that, like together. I got this, man. So I jumped over all of them, and it was great. It was perfect. Then I was like, all right, you guys, line your bikes, but long ways, right? And I was like, I'm gonna jump two bikes, right? So I go for it. I catch my speed, and I'm going and I'm going, and the next thing you know, I go and I'm in midair, and I knew that I was not gonna land it in midair, right? So I'm in the middle of the air, and I'm already tipping to the side, and I'm like, oh no, this is not gonna end well. So I go, and then I hit ground, and I completely screwed up my arm. It was scraped. I was bleeding everywhere. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part is there was this like Mexican cholo dude that was off to the side washing his like Cadillac, and he was like wiping it down, and then he just turns around and he goes, "Oh shit! Oh snap! Oh, did somebody get that on video? Oh my god!" And I was like, "Oh no!" And I was already old enough to the point where I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna cry over this," but I was like hurt, And then not only was I hurt, I've never felt more embarrassed in my entire life, because this dude was like, oh, he was like teasing. He was like, oh, someone should have caught that on camera, sent that to America's Home or Funniest Home Videos, which used to be a thing, right? Before we had these YouTube fail videos, we used to have America's Home Video, or America's Funniest Home Videos. And he was like, oh, you guys would have made $10,000, because that was the prize if you had a really hilarious video. And I remember when I was a kid, I will say this about America's Funniest Home Videos, is like these, you would always see these things, and like these videos, and at the end, like towards the end, they'd be like, oh, there's these three submitted videos, and we're gonna pick the best one or the funniest one out of these three. It was always a white person that won the $10,000 or $25,000 or whatever it was. So it would always piss me off. I'm like, when are they gonna get when are they gonna let a Mexican win that money? Little I didn't know anything about taxes. All I saw was $10,000, and I was like, I have to get on that show somehow. But I never did, and maybe that's for the best. So he was like, so that was the thing to yell. That was like the world star of back then. Is, oh, he should have sent that to America's Funniest Home Videos. Oh, that was the world star of back then, y'all. So I like I'm like recovering, and like I'm like scraped up, bleeding, and this dude, after he's done having his little world star of the 90s rant, he's like, are you okay though, bro? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I rode home, and I was bleeding, and I was scratched up everywhere, and my mom was like, what are you doing to yourself? My mom beat my ass after that. She saw how much I was bleeding. That's just how it was being a kid in the early 2000s and the 90s. In the 90s and early 2000s, times were great, man. It's not how it is anymore. Oh man, good times, good times. As a kid, man, like I've it was so much fun. It was so much fun as a kid, and like like I said, I wish I could have gone. If I can go back and say, if I were to create a time machine, I would go back in time and give myself the knowledge that I have now, and I'd be a lot more brave. I'd be a lot more smart, and I'd probably invent the Tesla before before Elon Musk did. Speaking of Elon Musk, man, I was watching some clips on Instagram, And I guess he was on an interview where some lady had a it was like this old lady like interviewing him, and she's like, oh, so some people say, the people say that you're reckless, and that you're, you've even smoked pot on a podcast. And he's like, well, I've never really smoked pot. I mean, like, if you ask anyone who smokes pot, I didn't know what I was doing. So he's like, he doesn't smoke anything. It's like, dude, it's Elon Musk. He should have been like, you know what, lady? If I want to smoke weed, I'm gonna smoke weed. And you know what? Elon Musk can smoke weed and still be smarter than everybody. He can. It's that easy. He's you don't know how compiled and composed this man is in his head, and he even said if he was reckless, his company would just go down under. But he's not reckless. He's got it under control. And if the man wants to let loose, and he was drinking scotch, wasn't he? He was drinking whiskey. She didn't bring that up. Like, oh my gosh, you were drinking whiskey, even though more people die from alcohol-related deaths than marijuana. She didn't. It's because, look, watch. I'm not gonna go ahead and say that everybody should smoke pot, and I'm not gonna defend it, and I'm not gonna be against it. All right, but I will say this: I don't think it's what we have thought it was. Right? What we thought weed was in the 90s was like a powerful drug. My mom still thinks weed is the worst drug in the planet. Right? This plant, she thinks it's worse than methamphetamine. She doesn't even know what meth is. Right? Anytime we're acting crazy, she's like, no se estén portando como marihuanos. Like, don't be acting like a bunch of potheads. I went on a cruise for my anniversary this year in October, and we were sitting with a bunch of detectives. My wife and I were sitting with a bunch of detectives, and there was a Canadian lady. Her name was Barb, right? And Barb goes, "Oh, they're about to legalize marijuana." Just making conversation. This is right before Canada legalized nationwide marijuana, and she was like, "Oh, they're about to legalize marijuana in about a week in all of Canada." And then one of the detective ladies, she was like, I forgot her name, but she was like, she's like, "Oh yeah, but now you're gonna have to deal with people just acting just crazy because they're gonna be on pot all the time." It's like, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a few bits about pot that I can't wait to tell on stage. But I will say this, man. It's not what people think, and I'm not saying that hey everyone should go smoke pot, and I'm not saying that I smoke pot, but I'm just saying I absolutely have, and I'll tell you this right now: it is not what you think it is. If it really truly was what it was, you'd see me like, oh, I need some weed right now, especially right now in California. I mean, in Riverside. In Riverside, there's like all the dispensaries are closed down. There's like we're back to like getting weed, like as if it was illegal again. So that's why I don't really do that stuff, right? Because it's like I thought it was gonna be like going to 7-Eleven and buying like some beers or something, and that's not the case. But anyways, that's beside the point. But Elon Musk, do whatever the hell you want. Just don't kill us all. Don't invent AI and kill us all, because that would suck a lot. So, I asked for some questions on InstaSpace on Instagram. Um, so let me pull this up real quick. Let's see. Did it do? Sorry, I was texting my wife. Anyways, so let's see if anybody had asked me any questions. Okay, so first person, my dude Ty. Talk about Laker getting Anthony Davis, bro. How about we talk about you proofreading your messages before you send them, fool? No, okay. Honestly, here we go. The Lakers getting Anthony Davis. All right, so now that we're gonna get introduced into the NBA right here, and I have some things pulled up right here, but there's rumors going on all over the place in the NBA right now where Anthony Davis and LeBron James are talking and clicking, and they're like, hey, we want to play with each other. And obviously LeBron James ain't going nowhere. He's staying in LA. and it's more than likely that the Lakers can get Anthony Davis, which I don't want to happen. I'm gonna be honest with you. Me as a Boston Celtics fan, I wanted Anthony Davis, and it was always rumor, and it's always been on like rumor mill that the Celtics were chasing after Anthony Davis, and that would have been great, and that's what the Celtics need right now. We don't need Al Horford to play better. We need to replace Al Horford for Anthony Davis. That's the solution to the problems that the Celtics are having right now. Anthony Davis would solve all those problems. We'd win a championship. We'd be the best team in not only the East, but in the freaking world if we had Anthony Davis. Now, if the Lakers were to get Anthony Davis, they'd be probably the best team in the universe, son. It's too destructive. It's way too effective to have a player like LeBron James being matched side by side with arguably the best center in the league. What else are they going to get? Russell Westbrook. Could you imagine that team? How destructive that now that's a super team right there. This would be one of the greatest 1-2 punches to come to LA, right? And yes, but I will say this, Ty, because I know you asked me this, bruh. Why are you only worried about the Lakers? I get it. You're a fan of but like you don't care about any other team. Like that's the only I'm not only gonna talk about the Lakers because I'm not a Laker fan, right? And also, I'm not going to talk about the Boston Celtics too because I don't want to be biased, right? I'm trying to create as much of an even playing field for all teams as much as I could. So screw you for asking the Lakers questions, but I will say that yes, if it's a big possibility because LeBron James and Anthony Davis they had dinner like after after the Lakers beat the Pelicans like I think it was like last night or so. So they went out to eat together, and there's rumors that they're talking and then they're trying to set things up. And more than likely, I will say this, more than likely Anthony Davis will be joining the Lakers, and then it's going to be an unstoppable force, and then the Lakers are going to win championships all over the place, and then it's going to be the Showtime Lakers all over again. So if you're a Laker fan, that's good for you. But if you're a Boston Celtics fan, if you're a Miami Heat fan, if you're a freaking Cleveland Cavaliers fan for some reason, I feel bad for you guys. Because that's it. It's over. Like, there's no point to... Well, there is a point, but speaking of the Celtics, I mean, they lost to the freaking Phoenix Suns last night, or 2 nights ago. To the they lost to the Milwaukee Bucks last night, so they're just losing all over the place to more and more teams that are supposed to be unworthy opponents. So they're not looking too good right now. Let me look at the scores from last night, right? Just to tell you guys where we're at. So Cleveland, again, you know what? Cleveland turned around for like a couple games, and now they're losing. They lost to Toronto. They beat Toronto, I believe, this month. They might have beat Toronto. The Detroit Pistons, they lost to Charlotte last night, and they also beat the Celtics I think earlier this week, right? So this is the week ending on December 21st. Last night was Friday, December 21st. So these are the games that happened. I don't want to say the standings anymore because by the time I post this, like the standings change. So I'm done saying the current standings because by the time I post it, the current standings are different. They're not the same anymore. Atlanta beat New York 114 to 107 on December 21st. So, you know, the soccer teams are actually starting to slowly sort of turn it around. Milwaukee, they're not a sucky team, but they totally thrashed the Boston Celtics. They manhandled the C's. I will say that. And there was this play where Jaylen Brown dunked on Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, and then he flexed on him, but the Celtics were down like 15, so it's like that's not the point. That's not the time to flex on anybody. Your goal should be let's win the game, right? Let's see. Anthony, and this is another reason why Anthony Davis joining the Lakers is a complete possibility, right? He doesn't really view as supermax money as like a factor anymore for his future. Like he's cool with not having supermax money. I mean, keep in mind these NBA players, they're rich. You know, even the rookies are rich. So maybe he wants to like really. I mean, because if he were to go to a team and win a championship, his stock will skyrocket. You know, any team that might want to invest in him are gonna have to really put it down after he's a champion. And trust me, like no one wants to. I don't think in the NBA the great players want to go throughout their entire career without winning a championship. That's not the goal. The goal is to win a ring, right? That way, when you retire, people are like, he's won this many championships with this team, and he's great, and this is the reason why. You know, other than that, we might have another Charles Barkley. You know, he's a great guy and he's an amazing player, but you kind of wish that he won a championship or two, right? Especially in that panel that he's with players that have won multiple championships. You know, Porzingis kind of looks like an old man now, but he might be coming back pretty soon, probably by February. And yeah, that's enough of the NBA. I'm not gonna spend too much time on the NBA today. There's been a lot of it's mostly rumors about Anthony Davis joining the Lakers, which, like I said, if that happens, that will be some sort of powerhouse. That something that would happen, right? LeBron James is playing like a freaking beast, son, and so is Kawhi Leonard. So these two are the arguably the best. LeBron James is by far the best small forward, power forward in the West Coast, and Kawhi Leonard right now is probably like the best small forward in the East. So take that with a grain of salt. Yada yada yada. Okay. My boy Ants asked me a real deep question, which is when is the world going to end? Well, look, here's the thing. I think about the end of the world all the time. I really do. It's mostly the super volcano. That's what's really been on my mind. Simply because if it's freaky, it's a reality, and according to science, to some scientists, it's about to bust, right? So it's a freaky. So I have no idea. I kind of want to get out of California for that very reason. For that's one of the reasons is like if there were to be some sort of natural disaster, God forbid, if there ever was some sort of disaster where people need to evacuate, we are so screwed. You might as well walk, really, because like I was in traffic the other day, just this extra holiday traffic, just coming from work one of these days, and it was not it was I was like, good, really, like this is Riverside, like what's going, why are we having so much traffic in River, I didn't even know there was this many people here, but there's a lot, we're overpopulated over here. And in LA, it's even worse. You know, like you ever see, they, the helicopter like, taking footage of the traffic. It's insane. It's insane. The just when you're in gridlock, it's impossible to drive there. So could you imagine if every single person had to leave? Scary. That's even scarier than the end of the world. If the end of the world were to come, I hope I go quick, right? Because I don't want to have to deal with the survival while everyone else is trying to deal with survival as well. Just take me now. Just take me. My wife asked me a question as well. Um, can we open our presents on Sunday? I don't want to because I want to wait till Christmas, at least Christmas Eve. It's only one more day. Like, come on. My wife has been asking me. She wants me to open my gifts, so that means she got me something that she feels I'm gonna be very excited about. But here's the thing: as I've gotten older, like I love the idea of gift giving and giving and receiving gifts. But I think growing up, I've just been way more patient. More like I don't know. I'm able to wait now. I feel like you can wait all you want, and you're eventually gonna get what you earned, and you're eventually gonna get what you deserve. But if you were patient, like there's nothing wrong with being patient. So, yeah. I mean, look, I will say this to my wife: if you want to open them on Sunday, if you want to open yours on Sunday, go ahead. If you want me to open mine on Sunday, I don't know how I feel about that. Like I like to keep it kind of traditional and be like, hey, at least on Christmas Eve, we spend time with each other, we open our gifts. Because if I open my gift now, I'm gonna use it or I'm gonna be excited about it, and then I'm gonna have to go about the rest of the week. You know, like when I still got to work on Monday. So could you imagine, like, I come home from Monday and we have the day off the next day, and I open my gift, and it makes it more enjoyable because not only am I opening it in front of you, and you're gonna see the excitement in my face, and not only are you gonna open your gift, but and then after that we get to hang out with each other and just spend time with each other. Maybe drink a glass of wine and whatever, you know. So I'd rather wait, but if you don't want to wait, then like, let's not wait, you know. And that's it for the questions, y'all. Um, Again, like I'm pretty much gonna answer these also on Instagram, but I wanted to give people the opportunity to get a shout on the podcast. Again, I'm gonna try to my very very best to post this also on iTunes. So I'm figuring out how to do that. So hopefully, you're listening to this episode on the podcast app on iTunes. So, but if not, it'll remain here on YouTube or whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as y'all stay classy. And you know what? I will say this: Merry Christmas, you guys. Christmas is almost here. Take care. Love one another. Cherish the families that you have in front of you, and remember, it's not about receiving the gifts. It's not even about giving the gifts, man. It's about the gift is right there. It's your families, the people that love you, that want to spend time with you. Don't make work. This is the time where like, don't make it about work. Make it about family, right? Don't make it about the numbers that are coming in. If you're passionate about work or whatever, just put that aside. Take a deep breath and relax. And relax and hang out with your family. No more, none of that tension that's gonna have that happens throughout the entire year. All right. So you guys, Merry Christmas. I will probably post another podcast before New Year's, but in case I don't, Happy New Year's and stay safe out there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun. It's been great. Let's get on out of here. Peace.